But Al, I want to ask you, man, Danny Ings goal. What a goal. What
Oh,
a
what
goal,
a
man.
goal! I tell
Yeah,
you,
Aston
you
Villa,
know,
Newcastle.
we
What a
we
goal.
we're spoiled for choice comparing this goal to last week's Leeds United goal because I tell you, when I saw I didn't watch the game live actually, but when I saw that goal, I was thinking, oh man, I've got to come on here and talk about that goal.
Hello and welcome to our third recording of the Al and Jerry Football Podcast with me, Jerry, and my buddy Al.
What's up, guys? Look who's back. See what I did there?
Look who's back, huh? Look who's back. Aku is back, lah. No, Lukaku. Rindu aku lah. Rindu aku lah. I don't know.
Luka.
Yeah.
Arsenal hati Luka.
Oh
I mean,
gosh,
we're
Arsenal
in the
hati
show for
Luka.
puns and jokes and bad jokes.
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
however bad our jokes are, wouldn't be as bad as the Arsenal performance on Sunday, I suppose.
Oh God, guys, there's a lot to get into this weekend. What a weekend of football again. Premier League never fails to disappoint. Goals, bad defenses, highlights, misses, a lot of things, and we can't wait to get into it. I guess Al will start with the first game of the weekend with the early kickoff, I guess, Liverpool and Norwich. So, yeah, I was watching that game and obviously it was nice to see the fans back at Anfield. I think that was one of the things I think a lot of the Liverpool players and a lot of Liverpool fans also wanted to see. I think a full Anfield singing "You'll Never Walk Alone" before the match and sort of that support. And I definitely, instantly, I think when I was watching the match just at the start, I already got that sort of sense of energy that was missing in a lot of the Liverpool home performances. And looking back at last year, I think that's where sort of Liverpool lost their hold of the title race, was when they went on that losing streak and they lost their home record. And interestingly enough, the home record that was the first game that we lost after 2 years at home was against Burnley. Ashley Barnes with the match-winning penalty.
Yep.
And I guess it was good to bury those demons against Burnley. I mean, instantly they started very energetically with the crowd. And I think Burnley as well, I think they bounced it off. And also, Al, another honorable mention to Burnley. I don't know whether you saw, after a long time, the whole team started with a 1 to 11 squad numbers.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you saw that over the weekend. I think that was interesting as well. I think Sean Dyche with a little bit of old school throwback over there. But
something totally English, I think, right?
Yes, 1 to 11, I think perfect squad numbers. It's so satisfying to see the squad numbers. But aside from that, I think Burnley had a strong start to the match. Strong performance overall, but I think as soon as Jota got his goal, that's when Liverpool started to apply the pressure, and sort of that's where our Liverpool's game comes in. As soon as the goal goes in, that's when they sort of increase the intensity and increase the pressure. Usually you'd go on a back foot probably for a bit, but I think that's where the strength lies. Costa Tsimikas with the cross to Jota, and Jota again with a goal. I think he was saying for a long time he wanted to play in a full Anfield. He didn't get a chance to it, and I think it's a perfect introduction for him. And obviously at the end there, with Sadio Mane's goal, I think it was good for Sadio Mane to get on the score sheet again. And what a long ball by Van Dijk out to Harvey Elliott. Harvey Elliott chests the ball down to Arnold, and Arnold with a slight touch. Very nice pass into Mane, and Mane with a clean finish to end the game. I think two talking points. The fans definitely missed by Liverpool last season, and as well Van Dijk, that pass for the second goal. I mean, literally the ball all the way from the back. I think it just took 2 minutes for it to turn out into a goal, and that was definitely something that Liverpool missed last season, and one of the strengths of their defense, I guess. Aside from that, it wasn't the best performance in terms of getting all the goals and everything, but definitely a solid showing and definitely a clean sheet. Alisson with a save at the end there, which was
what a save.
What a save at the end there. I think it's good news for all Liverpool fans, and definitely with Van Dijk back in the team, I think I think that also gave Arnold sort of a freedom to attack because last season he was getting exposed a lot at right back without that cover. I think with Matip and Van Dijk back, and he has that cover, and I think he's starting to enjoy a man of the match performance by Trent. So yeah, interesting to see how they will do against Chelsea next season. But I just want to ask you, Al, do you think that squad is enough to challenge for the title? I mean, seeing as Elliot had a good showing in his first sort of home debut, and having, I think, options off the bench in that sense, do you think that squad is enough to challenge for the title? No need to get a big name signing?
I think the squad is a bit thin, being very honest.
Okay.
I saw the quality of Liverpool on Saturday.
Yes.
I thought Liverpool were they were in cruise control pretty much after the Diego Jota goal. But make no mistake, yeah, like you mentioned, Jerry, Burnley came to play. I thought Burnley were very lively in the first half. And just honorable mentions even to that team. I remember Dwight McNeil was very lively on the left. He was more or less always cutting in, crossing, and giving in good crosses and so on. But when Liverpool played Norwich in the first game, I thought Tsimikas was slightly inexperienced in terms of his positional awareness, but he did way better against Burnley. And coming back to your question, it could be something of where they could push on forward. But I still think that when you compare the squads in terms of squad depth to your Uniteds, to your Chelseas, especially your Chelseas and your Cities, which obviously those two teams made a statement of intent over the weekend. I think in terms of depth, when your Champions League game starts coming in, your FA Cup, your cup competitions, whatnot, Liverpool might have a bit of a thinner squad in terms of quality, that is.
Yeah.
That could be a little bit of a worry, if you ask me. But judging from how they played against Burnley, it's this kind of games where you win. I thought last season when this fixture came along, the whole mood of that game after the 90 minutes, I know there was no fans there, but we all know what happened. So of course, to put those demons aside, Liverpool and Norwich and Liverpool winning, it's a great way to move forward, I suppose. But I thought personally this isn't the best that we've seen Liverpool. I thought during many times in the first half, Burnley took the game to them. And there were times where I thought Burnley could have at least equalized. So again, it comes back to the question, do they have a proper quality squad to challenge for the league? We all know that first 11, everybody's fit and everybody's firing, is second to none. Basically the league champions, the same squad. But they need to keep everybody fit. We see how sometimes a loss of Alexander Arnold and a loss of Andrew Robertson can cost the team. And as I've mentioned before, and I believe you feel the same way, Jerry, Liverpool works so much with those wings that come from the sides, with those wings that just push up. You look at it. Yeah, you look at the full box. Yeah, Alexander Arnold was fantastic. 2 games in a row, I thought he was really good. And you mentioned it right. I guess with Van Dijk, the whole leadership qualities at the back to sort it out, to get back, to defend. We didn't see that last year, or rather last season.
Yeah, and with Hendo as cover as well. Henderson, I think he's there to cover for Trent quite a lot. But definitely, just to mention there, I think the fullbacks are Liverpool's playmakers.
Yeah, definitely. And since we're talking about wings, right? Who else gives you wings? Jesus gives you wings, and I don't mean this in any religious way whatsoever. Because Gabriel Jesus over the weekend, whew,
oh wow!
I tell you. what a game!
Jesus gave City wings over the weekend.
The City Norwich is the other one. The City all round really good performance. Nothing else that you can ask. Gabriel Jesus, perhaps sometimes I think there's a lot of a divided opinion when it comes to him. When we speak about him, some City fans rate him, some don't. I suppose their favorite position for him now is pretty much a solidified talking point after the weekend's game. But yeah, he could be a very decent right wing. Riyad Mahrez too. We saw that goal, the 5th goal he scored. Riyad Mahrez took it, great positioning, beat the offside trap, and what a goal. But But yeah, I mean, City's team is built for this low block defenses. You know, all your
Yeah.
your wingers, you're off the ball running. I thought that was fantastic. You know, some teams struggle against low block. You know, some teams who perhaps lack creativity might struggle. You know, we could speak about the other red half of Manchester who has the same problem, but Man City doesn't. Man City, I think, plays extremely well when you've got this low block defenses because they are able to pick the pass, they are able to run through you. You look at what Jesus did, you did look at what Raheem Sterling did, and a certain high spending player from a certain Aston Villa also got a goal,
Yeah.
let alone just a touch from the
100 million dollar left knee goal, man. I mean, that left knee alone would have cost 20 to 30 million. So that was a very expensive knee that's got the
Very
goal. But
expensive goal. Very expensive goal. And well, yep, City statement of intent. You know, 5
Definitely.
goals could have been 6. Ferran Torres got a goal ruled offside after the VAR check. But yeah, I mean, what a performance, Gabriel Jesus. You know, mad props to him. Fantastic performance. And here's the thing. You know, it's against your bigger sides, which I feel Man City could be slightly weaker. We saw that against Spurs last week. You know, that's if there's anything, you know, and I'd like to ask you perhaps, you know, do you see them going all the way? Do you see the City squad going all the way? Because we've seen perhaps 2 performances on other side of the spectrums, right? Once against the Spurs team, which, you know, they got beat, but on Saturday they were just Rolls Roycing all over the park, isn't it, Jerry? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think you pointed it out there. I think Jesus' performance, I think, was very crucial to a big talking point in City's victory over the weekend. I think if you have Mahrez on that right-hand side, he's going to go for shots a lot more. He's going to try attack a lot more and try to maybe get the goals. But yes, cutting in and shooting with his left foot because he has a wonderful left foot. But with Jesus there at the right wing, I think it worked really well because they played with Ferran Torres leading the attack, whether false 9 or whether striker. But I have to say, Ferran Torres looked a lot more dangerous with Jesus on the right wing, constantly giving him the ball and crossing in the ball. I think definitely City will look a lot more dangerous if you have Jesus on the right wing doing exactly what he did. There's a clear game plan, which I saw. I didn't see at Spurs, definitely. I don't think we did see that much at Spurs, and Spurs didn't really give them a chance to play like that. I think Norwich definitely gave them more of a chance to play like that. But the standout thing here was that they had a plan, and Jesus executed the plan perfectly. So over the course of the season, I'm not too sure. They did well in the Champions League last season, Al, with Mahrez, with Foden, with Sterling. They got to the Champions League final, but ultimately they missed out in the Champions League final, interestingly enough, against a big English team, solid defensive English team, because there wasn't enough firepower in terms of there was no striker to occupy the defenses. There was no one to just put away the goals. So I wonder whether it's going to be the same thing. They get right at the very end, but they may just miss out in terms of not having that striker there, you know. And maybe that's the only question we have. But obviously it's still early days and we're looking forward to see more. But just having that sort of option from, I mean, using Jesus as a right wing, I mean, nobody would have really predicted that before the match. And I think that was a stroke of genius by Pep there. And it'd be interesting to see how he can sort of make the team work for him with all those attacking options, because they should be the number 1 contenders to win and defend their title win with all those attacking options and with all the money that they've spent.
They've still got a fantastic squad, you know. But just to touch upon what you've mentioned, who needs Harry Kane? Who needs a Harry Kane? You've got 5 goals.
Yeah, exactly.
Harry who?
Yeah, exactly. If they can be smart with sort of making a system work, I think it can be effective. And Harry, he might have to start looking across the pond. I think I'm not too sure, but maybe he'd have to sort of, you know, try to go back to the Spurs fans and like the prodigal son, I guess. You know, they didn't even get his move, but I think yet to see, but definitely looking from last season, one thing they missed in the Champions League final was just having a striker there. I feel if they had played Aguero in the Champions League final,
They
it would
would
have
have had a
turned out a
chance.
lot differently. And eventually, a lot of City fans will be looking at the Champions League final as sort of using that to judge Pep, using that to judge the current City team, because you can win the titles, you can win the League Cups and the FA Cups, but that's ultimately what Pep was brought in to do, to win the Champions League. So, I mean, we yet to see, but definitely City are number one contenders for the title if they play like that, like they played over the weekend. So I guess moving
That's
on
what-
from that, in terms of
Yep.
relentlessness in attack, I was shocked, Al, that Wolves didn't score a goal against Spurs. I was watching that game and like they were relentless. And Molineux, my God, so nice
What an
to see fans
atmosphere.
back. Yeah, what a stadium to have fans back. I mean, just the screaming, the shouting, the thrills, the spills, the emotions. You can hear sort of the emotions with every touch, with every chance that they have. And Adama Traore, I think he could have buried the chance there, but
No.
he had a chance to
he
bury
missed,
and
no?
kill the game, but he didn't. Yeah, it was relentless by Wolves, and I was actually amazed that they didn't get a goal. I think it was solid showing by Spurs to sort of keep that clean sheet. Obviously, the penalty by Dele Alli, which some could argue was a bit of a soft penalty because he had
It was. I wouldn't have given it. It was a soft penalty. I thought Dele Alli
Yeah.
hit into the keeper more than the keeper hit Dele Alli.
Yeah, I think he sort of ran into the keeper there. I mean, fans do tell us what you think, but obviously, I think as we know at the start of the season, the referees, I think, have more of an intention to let the game flow freely, to let the game go, and not to sort of focus on all these little chances. But it's stuff like that, I guess VAR could work. It's definitely a work in process. I mean, it's second full season, if I'm not mistaken, and it's definitely going to take years to perfect. I mean, even the evolution of referees from the olden days where they could be influenced by certain managers, certain decisions, whereas the referees now being very sort of strict. And I think the younger generation of referees like Martin Tyler and Anthony Taylor and
Anthony Taylor. Yeah.
yeah,
I would
Mr.
love to see
Oliver.
Martin Tyler as a ref, though.
Yeah, what a mistake by me. That was a bit of a mistake. Sorry, guys. But
Mike
yeah,
Dean.
I mean, Mike Dean, oh yeah, the meme master. The way I mean, some of the looks he gives the players is definitely quite comical there. But yeah, I guess a few people might have been, unsure about that decision, that penalty decision. But end of the day, it was a penalty. They did put the penalty away. But I definitely think Wolves were the more attacking threat. They were on the ball more. They had more ball possession and they were relentless. And I think the only thing they're needing is just to get a goal under the first manager so they can kick on from that. Obviously, they haven't scored yet this season, but just a few things to point out there about Bruno Lage, the Wolves manager. As we know, they had got him from Benfica after he had won the title in the 18-19 season. So he had come in from a caretaker manager to winning the title. So ironically enough, it was the 18-19 season and he had won 18 out of 19 games to win Benfica. They went on a run, sort of winning 18 out of 19 to win that title eventually. And just interestingly enough, Al, I just wanted to ask you, do you remember Carlo Carvalhal, the Portuguese manager who was at Swansea for a bit?
Oh yeah, Carlo, yeah.
Yeah, he had come into Swansea and he had they beat relegation, I think, in that 16-17 or 17-18 season. I'm not too sure. He had got them to beat relegation, but eventually Swansea had gone down. But I think that manager, Carlos Carvalhal, so Bruno Lage was his assistant at that time. And what people say of Bruno Lage is that he has had a variety of roles in terms of coaching, in terms of being assistant, and he was the one who did organize the coaching sessions under Carlos Carvalhal. So you got a manager here who's had experience, who has won a title in Portugal, and who is tactically savvy. So I've been looking forward to seeing more of this manager and more of this Wolves team because they look like they haven't really lost much losing Espirito Santo, they look like they haven't really lost much. They just, I guess, need to get the goals. And if Jimenez can get back to his best, I think Wolves will definitely be a good team to look. Yeah.
You mentioned it right. I think Raul Jimenez needs firing. That's going to be a big big factor. He had one chance when Adama Traore turned on Tanganga and put in a good cross to him, but he fired just over the bar. If you get Raul Jimenez from, say, 2 seasons back, that probably would be ruthlessly ruffling into the net. Now, they've got to get him firing. They've got to get players like Ruben Neves to be controlling the midfield. I thought Ruben Neves didn't have the best of games. I thought he gave the ball away for the goal that Spurs scored. Ultimately, the penalty, I think it was in. And Adama Traore really needs to work on his finishing. I mean, this is 2 games in a row where it's a one-on-one situation and you could have scored the goal. Of course, last week against Leicester and of course this week against Tottenham. So if it would have fell to another player, perhaps Raul Jimenez in form, then obviously Wolves would be getting their goal. But good points that you mentioned, they don't look bad and they don't look like we don't know. We don't know what they're playing. We don't know what their identity is. I think Wolves just needs to kick off. Wolverhampton Wanderers just needs to, like you mentioned, score that first goal. Then from there, get a good run of games. I don't think this is a bad squad. I think that getting into the 8th, 9th, 10th position could be perhaps the ultimate goal that Wolves may want to look at, right? But yeah, I mean, a lot of it is centered around their returning striker because, coming back from a head injury and getting back to your form, we all know how difficult that is, right? We all know how difficult it is for him to be returning to the form that we have seen before. But I was impressed with Wolves. You're right, they were relentless. They really played against Spurs. They brought the game against them. I was also impressed with Tottenham, for that matter, because 2 wins in 2, right? And you can only win the games that's put in front of you. And could this be your shocking team that perhaps is going to be creating a shock for everybody? Because
the surprise threat, maybe surprise package.
I'd be honest with you. Before the season started, I didn't quite rate Spurs to be within that top six, but I mean, it's looking good for them.
Nuno it's definitely looking good. That's why I just wanted to ask you, Al, I guess, just to end this point here. Do you think Spurs can break into the top 4 this season with Nuno? Obviously, we're going to keep Harry Kane out of the picture until he makes up his mind. I think Harry Kane needs to make up his mind before we can sort of speak about this situation. But I just wanted to ask you, because obviously Son didn't have the best of days after last week's game. And I just wanted to ask you, Al, do you think they can break into the top 4? Because the thing is, with Son, he's definitely going to have days where he's probably not getting goals and not firing, But where else can that goals or that attacking threat come from Spurs? Or do you think they're going to be a team? Do you think they're going to be a team that relies on having clean sheets and a defense? Because Lloris, again, he saved the Adama Traore shot in the end. It was his save, and his save that got them that clean sheet. So could they break in the top 4? Are they going to be like a high-scoring team? Or do you think they're going to sort of have to rely on these sort of grinding out a performance and grinding out a result? Definitely, I had this feeling on the day, Al, that I enjoyed watching Wolves' performance more than I did Spurs. I prefer watching a team that are relentless and going for it with all members of the team, rather than a team that's sort of grinding out a result and relying heavily on 1 or 2 players. They'd be heavily reliant on Son to score the goals and Lloris to sort of keep those clean sheets, which I feel, like you said, is probably a disaster waiting to happen now.
So the other game that was on, obviously, was the United game where Southampton played Man United. And of course, Southampton scored the first goal, where Man United got the equalizer through Mason Greenwood. Now, of course, Man United, they played with Matic in the middle of the park. Of course, Pogba, Bruno Fernandes, Fred, and up front there was Mason Greenwood on the right and Anthony Martial on the left. Let's look at the first goal. When the first goal was scored by Che Adams. Now, firstly, I thought that was a foul. I thought personally that was a foul, which again we have to speak about VAR and the level of refereeing in England and so on, and the uncertainty that happens week in, week out. I actually thought when we talk about refereeing that the first game week, the last week's games were actually pretty good. All the refereeing decisions were pretty solid. I thought coming back from the Euros, perhaps we would have taken a bit of a leaf out of the book from the Euros and seeing how that actually understands and how that unfolds. Because the VAR system in the Euros was pretty good, pretty decent. But
Yeah.
in looking at Southampton's goal, I thought there was a foul on Bruno Fernandes right now. Che Adams scored a goal, deflected, went in. Now, Man United, looking at them very specifically, I mean, this is very telling for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because what's the position of Man United now? I think are you looking at yourselves as being serious title contenders? A few questions to put forward here is that the transfer window is still open. Are you going to be persisting with a Fred-sized midfield? Because, Fred, we saw his limitations. I thought he was one of the weaker links in the midfield, could not pass out of the back. Nemanja Matic, that experiment has got to be concluding by now. He doesn't have the legs to go for your 90 minutes, can't be a regular starter. And one of which is perhaps the parts where it's a difficult pill to swallow, especially if you're a Man United fan. And Man United fans, let us know what you think. Because what's gone wrong with Anthony Martial? I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer gave him a chance, started him in the game, but Anthony Martial didn't affect the game whatsoever, I thought, during the whole time when he was on the pitch. I thought when Mason Greenwood was put into the middle, what happened? Man United equalized, right? But Anthony Martial looks like he's just playing in a very, very, it's like he's giving his half energy. He's not even making those runs. He's not doing as much as we would like him to see, because we know what kind of a player he is. We know when he burst onto the scene how he was, right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing, because do you start him, right? I still think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer doesn't start Jadon Sancho yet, because he wants him to be back into full fitness, right? So of course that's one concern probably that he's having. But again, you've got to be ruthless, right? If you want to win the title, if you really think that you're going to be looking at yourselves as title contenders, then you've got to be ruthless. You've got to put out your best 11, and Man United, I think for Man United, is 2 points dropped, right? Anthony Martial, again, we rate him. I think all of us, whether you're a United fan or not, we know about the quality of this kid. But at the moment, it looks like he's just not giving it his all. I think confidence is also short, the young man. And here's the other thing. You're going to look at yourself to say, can I get into that French squad for the upcoming World Cup? What are my aspirations? What are my plans, right? But it just doesn't look good. I mean, Jerry, would you start Anthony Martial? I mean, what's with this whole Anthony Martial related experiment? Are you going to be persisting with him? I mean, you've got Jadon Sancho on the bench. You've got Marcus Rashford once he comes back, and Mason Greenwood looks like he has the making to be a number 9 for Man United. But where does that leave Anthony Martial, Jerry?
Yeah. Like you said, Anthony Martial experiment. Wouldn't want it to blow up on the scientist's face, You wouldn't want it to blow up on Ollie's face, definitely. But I mean, on the Anthony Martial thing, definitely I think, like you said, Al, we all know his quality. I think we all know the skills and the talent that he possesses. I think he's a fast, quick, strong, even a strong striker with a good shot on him. He can cut in and shoot sort of top bins. We've seen that multiple times. But I do question the direction like United's going with, because he hasn't been sort of even in the periphery of the French team. He hasn't even been in sort of discussion to break into that French team. So in terms of France, he's not even raising any eyebrows or, sort of giving Didier Deschamps a hard time to sort of pick. I think France have abundant options and they don't really need Anthony Martial. So that would go on to, can he sort of have a career at United? Can he sort of break into that first team? Looking from what I saw last season, Al, I think for Cavani to have outplaced Anthony Martial in United's front line last season was a bit damning on Anthony Martial. And I'm not too sure it's going to work out for Anthony Martial. I don't think it would. I think if Rashford were to be in the team, he would be an option in the middle with Sancho probably on the left and James on the right wing. Did Daniel James play over the weekend?
Daniel James didn't play as well. he was not
Right,
selected.
right. Because I thought he had a good first game. I mean, considering the fact, and obviously with Mason Greenwood as well, So if you got a fully fit Rashford and a Sancho that's firing, where would Martial play sort of in this team?
Mm.
And he could make a comeback. I mean, but he would have to do considerable amount in terms of the energy, goals, and assists. He has to start getting those numbers for him to even be considered in the team. If not, he could probably look to move elsewhere, maybe to France, with that league coming up with teams like Nice and Marseille, or maybe some teams in there. But I definitely did not see enough from him to be considered as a strong option going on for United. And with that Fred situation, Al, I think, like you said, he's a bit of a fun-sized midfielder, right? I mean, I wouldn't bank on anybody's size. I think definitely you wouldn't want to look at someone's physical abilities more than how they play, but
the attributes.
You definitely want a lot of energy, at least from him, and a little bit of maybe craft in terms of skills and his sort of dribbling in that sense. But I think the judgment was quite damning when Ole brought him off. I think there was a part in that second half where Southampton looked to be the one to get the second goal, and he had brought off Fred and brought on McTominay. I think that in that part, sort of, Southampton was on the front foot, and he sort of brought out Fred as emergency. He sort of I think he had given away the ball, and he didn't really want him to continue with Fred in that team. So he had brought on McTominay sort of just to rush in and sort of try to fix that issue there. But definitely, I think in terms of firepower, they could be missing Rashford, and they're definitely yet to see the best of Sancho. But you would have to see a considerable amount and a considerable change from Martial for him to be considered United's number one striking option, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you look at Ole, I think what he works on, what he banks on is hardworking players. One thing about Edinson Cavani is that he's going to work his socks off. When he's playing in the middle of the park, he's going to press. You don't see that same tenacity from Anthony Martial, unfortunately, right? You don't see that. He's more of a structure, right? But Cavani is going to be working like a dog on the pitch, right? Now, we can say the same for Donny van de Beek. Yeah, we could say the same about Donny van de Beek, right? Donny van de Beek, when he first came on to Man United, he was still in his Ajax sort of a form where it's your Dutch style, total
very laid back.
Yeah, very laid back. Yeah, and with the Ole system, with the Ole style, we look at players like Cavani, and even I saw it in Jadon Sancho yesterday. I thought the little cameo that he had, he linked up well with Luke Shaw. So definitely, this is something which you mentioned again. If Anthony Martial wants to even keep himself in the running, I think you need to show up during the games, and he had a chance. He had a chance on Sunday, but I just thought the minute he got substituted, and of course they put Greenwood into the middle, what happened? Man United scored, right? So it comes back again to the manager. Sometimes with a title-winning manager, you've got to be ruthless. You've got to be making these hard calls, right? And of course, transfer window is still open. I think Man United desperately need a central defensive midfielder. If we're talking about title talk, right? They need a CDM. They definitely need a CDM. I mean, a Mac-Fred midfield partnership of the double pivot might work, but it's very limited. I think with McTominay and Fred, it could
be exposed, I guess.
It could be exposed. We saw it exposed big time against Liverpool last season when United lost 4-2. Right, we saw it exposed big time. So if they want to just have any serious aspirations for the league title this year, right? I think honestly, you've got to go and get a CDM. You've got to definitely go up there and get a proper CDM that's going to give your Pogbas and your Bruno Fernandeses the licenses to go forward, right? It all comes back again. Where do you want to see yourself? If you want to put yourself in this equation at the end of the season, lifting the Premier League, that's what you've got to do. And you've got to be ruthless. I think Ole's got to be ruthless.
Definitely. Just to end on this point there, I think Ole's way of attacking is a very quick, sort of fast-paced attacking team with Bruno and with Pogba sort of putting those balls, if you put those true balls in, you're going to have runners there in the team.
Yeah,
And it's,
definitely.
I guess in terms of having that slow, laid-back sort of player, there's a throwback to a time where Dimitar Berbatov was a good
Dimitar
striker, and
Berbatov.
he was playing in the Premier League. But I think the game has moved on from that
Yeah.
point, even to a point where Berbatov might even struggle. I mean, I don't want to say that because he's a class player, Rolls Royce player, and
Yeah.
such a brilliant first touch,
Yeah.
player. But I'm just I'm comparing sort of that style of play. Maybe Martial's a bit sort of not looking to run behind the lines too much, maybe looking to sort of have the ball at his feet and sort of see what he can do with that. But I think with Ollie's style, if you want to see sort of what we saw last week in terms of Fernandes in full flow, Pogba in full flow, and that team sort of in full flow, it needs to be faster paced, definitely. And like we mentioned last week, United fans, I guess to see Pogba thrive, I think we definitely need to see a CDM. Do tell us what you think.
Definitely.
But
And
moving on from back,
who's best?
yeah,
Let us
who's
know
best, I guess. Yeah, definitely. And moving on from that, in terms of tracking back for your team and showing some energy, I was really shocked with Arsenal, man.
Oh
Gosh,
my God. My goodness
Lukaku
gracious.
back in the Premier League. Yeah, Lukaku this, Lukaku that, man of the match, best striker in the world and all that. But come on, man. His first goal in the Premier League back after 10 years. Looking back, I think his last debut was in 2011. So it's literally been 10 years out since he's back. I don't want Lukaku to be scoring a tap-in on his first game back. I mean,
Yeah.
come on, give him a
Easiest
bit of a
tap-in.
challenge. He's gonna be like, oh, the English Premier League is not much of a challenge. I don't want that, man. But yeah, I was watching the match, and I'll definitely get your thoughts on this, Al. But I felt definitely it was quite obvious that they capitulated in that first half on the right hand side with two quick goals from Lukaku. Obviously, Reece James being the main threat in terms of getting the assist and scoring the goal. But I felt that, I felt the centre backs couldn't really deal with Lukaku in terms of he was finding a lot of spaces and getting a lot of sort of dominating them, really. I think it was sort of they were his puppets. You see, if you got
Manhandling.
if you got two centre backs sort of always chasing the striker, you're playing sort of to the striker's tune, and he had them on strings the whole game. And Murray, I don't know what to say. I think Troops summed it up quite well. I don't think we really need to say much. I think Arsenal fans already really have their say. I think Lukaku took Murray's manhood there, but definitely, I mean, it would have been different probably with Ben White there. I'm not really going to focus on the centre backs. And I'm not even going to pull out Tierney. I think it definitely came on that right-hand side for Chelsea and Arsenal's left side. Those were where the goals came. But Tierney was sort of having to cover his centre backs. He was having to cover Murray, who was playing a left-sided centre back yesterday. My biggest disappointment, I think, seeing that game was Saka.
He didn't track back at all.
At all. I think, come on. One thing we mentioned, if Arsenal were to get anything out of the game, was to play for your badge. And I'm not like banning Saka. I'm not like pulling him out here. I'm not like sort of going in his case or anything. But I think he's a great player. And he was a great breakthrough youngster for Arsenal last season. But you have to see some sort of support there. I mean, I would say Saka was at fault for both the goals. I mean, definitely Tierney could have done better, but he needed some sort of cover. You see, a lot of times you see that with Alexander-Arnold. He's so attacking based that he always leaves the sort of that space behind him. So you have the likes of Henderson. I mean, Henderson has been our sort of second-hand right back for so many years. I mean, with the amount of times he's covered for Trent is unbelievable. Fine. Maybe Xhaka could have done that. But I would say Saka could have done a lot better, man. I mean, I was really disappointed. I mean, just seeing him sort of jog back and not even try to mark Reece James, because you have to sort of understand that Tierney would be sort of occupied with Mount playing on that right-hand side. So if Chelsea play with wing-backs, it's basic. If any team sort of attacks you with wing-backs, your winger sort of have to do that cover work, which I didn't see from Saka.
We didn't see any of it. We didn't see any of it.
So, I mean,
you want to play for the bench.
Definitely, definitely. I felt it was a good showing by Lukaku. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't feel it was really a big test for Chelsea. I think it was pretty easy game
But
in terms of
Chelsea
Chelsea's
were in
standards.
second gear. If I'm being honest,
Yeah,
Jerry. Chelsea were in second gear throughout the whole game. And
exactly. So do
Arsenal
tell
were
me
that
what you
poor.
think, Al. Do tell me what you think about the goals. I definitely, for me, I felt Saka could have done a lot better, and I was a bit
No,
disappointed because I thought a
I
young player like him would actually show his
no,
worth for the badge.
yeah, well, definitely. I think, just to begin there, I mean, you talk about the first goal, right? The London Metropolitan Police will be all over Lukaku for common assault on Pablo Mari. I mean, that's done with
Grievous
that.
bodily harm, man.
Yeah,
GBH.
grievous bodily harm, actual, whatever it may be. I mean, that's an easy tap in. You don't want to see that. We all know what
Yeah,
Lukaku's gameplay is.
yeah,
Lukaku's gameplay, wingers, chopping in balls from left, right, and of course, Reece James. If you guys had him in your fantasy football, I guess the points would have been racking up, right? So, I mean,
yeah.
we talked about Arsenal last week. We spoke about Arsenal needing to play for the badge, needing to show some steel, needing to really track back, be hardworking. I mean, I could have seen them not scoring. I thought the creative element from the team, when you're not playing with your top players, is definitely going to be hitting a deck. But no, what's with the first and the second goal? What's Bukayo Saka was just jogging back. You
Yeah,
didn't see
exactly.
any intent to support your teammates. Now, let alone Pablo Mari. We'll come to Pablo Mari in a bit. I thought Ben White was a big miss. I mean, definitely you would have wanted somebody more solid in the center half. You wanted him to be a lot more protective, in the likes against of Romelu Lukaku and so on. But Lukaku and Chelsea were not even in fifth gear, let alone third gear. They were in cruise control. I look at Chelsea and I'm thinking, okay, this is a team, we're going to go all over Arsenal, but Arsenal made it so easy, right? We look at the second goal when Reece James had all the space in the world. He could have had a picnic over the right hand side, and
Yeah, there
still
was too
Arsenal
much
players
space
couldn't
over
have
there.
dogged back. Yeah, so much
Yeah.
space.
Because for the
You
second
could
goal, he had
have,
a time to take a touch and to smash it into the
yeah,
goal. So Leno
exactly,
was
exactly.
left dry, Tierney was left dry. I definitely think those two goals could have been avoided if Saka
Could
was
have been
striking.
definitely avoided. Could
Yeah,
have definitely been avoided. And Arsenal fans were right to boo them off after the game. I mean, what
yeah,
a pathetic display. All of them.
yeah,
I mean, if you look at Arsenal Football Club, I think apart from Emil Smith Rowe, whom I thought had a decent game,
yep,
was the
yeah,
only one trying and trying, but of course nothing. You had Aubameyang came on for a while, had a bit of a cameo, didn't really
yeah,
affect the game. But yeah, I mean, I mentioned last week on this very podcast that Mikel Arteta is going to be given time. Now he's been backed in the transfer window. Whether he's been backed with the right players, the right set of your personnel. That's of course a question mark. I saw on Instagram that you've got players like Willian liking the Chelsea football photo after they've won the game. What's that all about? I mean,
yeah,
at the moment, I think it's really messy. If you talk about Arsenal, I think there's so
yeah,
many problems off and on
yeah.
the pitch, and
We could do a
it only
separate
gets
show just on
worse.
Arsenal alone now.
Yeah, no, we could speak about Arsenal all day long,
Yeah,
and still they wouldn't have bought anybody in the center of midfield.
yeah,
We could go all day long on them.
yeah. But I have to
But
say, Al, honorable mention to Albert Sambi Lokonga. I think he showed a few signs of being a class
mm,
midfielder from
mm,
Belgium, from Anderlecht.
yeah,
Of course, Henri's recommendation. There's a little
mm,
bit of class there in terms of that. But if you don't have sort of defense, so if you're not solid defensively, your midfielders are always going to be suspect.
yeah,
And giving that 4-year deal to Xhaka, do you
yeah.
think?
What's that all about? I mean, you need
Yeah,
experience if you're going to bring in young players.
yeah, I definitely think Arsenal need to go for a midfielder, someone like Neves
Yeah,
or even Declan
definitely.
Rice, Calvin Phillips. I think Declan Rice would be
Yeah,
such a
Calvin
good
Phillips, good shout.
midfielder.
Yeah,
Yeah, even Declan Rice, I think he would improve them defensively and he'll be a good of a young player to sort of build the
mm,
team upon. I think Arsenal need good midfielders to sort of build that team on. I did see some
yeah.
good signs from Lokonga, but I think with Xhaka, I'm not too sure in that sense. Like you said, I think the experiment has ended quite a while back.
No,
So
it's
Arsenal fans,
expired.
if
It's
you're
ended.
yeah. Arsenal fans, do let us know what you think. Obviously, just to end this whole Arsenal and Chelsea debacle, I think it was Chelsea definitely, I think, will have a better test against Liverpool next week. We'll be definitely looking to see what Van Dijk can do against. I think it will be a test for Van Dijk, it will be a test for Lukaku, and probably that would be the true Premier League experience. I don't think Arsenal really put up much of a fight in that sense. But I guess that leads to the question, would we see Arteta last this season? I'm not too sure.
The Grim Reaper is already calling.
Yeah, it's already knocking on that door.
He's already knocking on that door. We see those images right on social media, and he's knocking on that door. And Arteta's name.
The thing is, this is his first full-time managerial job, and it seems like such a big challenge for him. And definitely we'd like to see Arsenal with all the players back, but would that be the answer to the question? I'm not too sure. From what I saw, like you said, the police, Metropolitan London Police, will be looking out for Lukaku. GBH, grievous bodily harm.
Manhandling. It was just manhandling.
Oh man, I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say. But yeah, I'll be looking forward to see how Arsenal can turn this around, because I feel if they can, but they definitely need the right players to come in. And if they want to buy young, they have to buy the right players. I definitely think Declan Rice is sort of a midfielder Arsenal should be going for. Whether you have to pay the big bucks, I think you have to. Or if you have to look abroad, if you have to look at, in teams like France, or even in, even from players like a player like Axel Witsel. He's so good for Arsenal's team, Yeah, but I think both of us, we want to see Arsenal do better, I think it's got to a point where we pity Arsenal, but it's just no choice, man. But yes, just to, I guess that's all we have time for in terms of main games. But honorable mentions to Leeds and Everton. I think Leeds and Everton game. What a good game! What a good game! Yeah, and that goal by Rafinha at the end, man. But I think Everton looks a bit defensively suspect in that sense. I think attacking wise, Calvert-Lewin and Demarai Gray, I think they had a really good game, and that could be a budding partnership. Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Demarai Gray. I think both of them were in the England under-21 setup, and it would be good. But Al, I want to ask you, man, Danny Ings' goal. What a goal! What a goal, man! Goal. I tell you, Aston Villa, Newcastle. What a goal!
We're spoiled for choice comparing this goal to last week's Leeds United goal, because I tell you, when I saw, I didn't watch the game live actually, but when I saw that goal, I was thinking, oh man, I've got to come on here and talk about that goal. I've just got to have that one session where I'm going to be talking all about that goal, covering the very goal. Oh my goodness, fantastic!
Danny Ings with a blinder, guys. Danny Ings with a blinder. Do go check out Danny Ings' goal against Newcastle.
What a goal! Do go check it out.
I think probably contenders for goal of the season. I think that's exactly what Aston Villa did, right? You see, they saw that Grealish leaving was going to leave a big hole in their team, and they went out and got a striker. They got a striker from the English Premier League who's proven, and you can see such a big difference. Because honestly, Al, I think the difference in that game, because Newcastle weren't far off. Obviously, they had Callum Wilson on the other end, and Callum Wilson missed a big chance when the game was at 0-0. But you can see that literally Ings dragged that whole team up with that such a good goal and sort of the attacking threat that he has. And you can obviously see in England that having a striker is a big part of a team, And if you want to fill,
policies are key, Jerry. Transfer policies are really key.
Exactly. And what a goal by Danny Ings, man! Overhead kick and
what a goal.
If he was Brazilian, if he was called Ingzinho or something like that, I think a lot more people are talking about that goal.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Or Ings Nandes or something.
He's got a Danny in front of his name.
Yeah.
Just to touch on the transfer policy at the end there. That's what we're crying out against Arsenal. Your transfer policies are key. Spot on mentioning, Jack Grealish is leaving, but you want to build a unit. It's not about getting your top stars. Liverpool lost Coutinho, but they've got 2-3 other players that built a team that ultimately won them a title. You want to see that. You want to see
Yeah.
that with teams like Aston Villa.
Definitely.
And we saw it with Aston Villa, but Arsenal needs to be smarter in the transfer market. Again, it's yet to be seen. It's a long way to go, but the signs are not really telling at the moment. Bleak
Yeah.
days for Arsenal, but what a goal that is.
What a goal. Yeah. I'm afraid that's all we have time for, guys. I guess really rounds off all the discussions for the weekend. If you can, do comment, do let us know what you think. And I'm sorry, Lukaku, but I think moment of the weekend goes to Danny Ings. I'm sorry, Lukaku. I know you came back with the goal, but I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to give that to Danny Ings. He landslide victory in terms of moment for the weekend.
Definitely. Anyways, guys, see you all next week, or see you all later this week. Stay safe, have a brilliant week, and ciao.
Thank you for listening. Bye.